This is the Strange and Mysterious World podcast, in conjunction with Elucis TV. These are your hosts, Lee Stridham and William Collinson.
Welcome to Strange and Mysterious World, Season 5, Episode 14. Tonight's guest, we have Mike Mew. Welcome, Mike Mew.
Thank you very much, William. A pleasure to be on board.
Thank you. And please, if you could just introduce yourself to the audience so they don't think I...
Okay, so I'm a third-generation orthodontist. I'm British. I did my orthodontic training in Denmark, where the growth and development studies happened. And I have an alternative perspective on the growth and development of how faces grow, that there's a significant environmental component about influencing how faces grow. So it's not that there aren't genes, but this is overlaid by a strong environmental influence that we're just not looking at. And of course, this opens the door to prevention. It opens the door to other forms of treatment. Rather than accepting how your craniofacial structure is, you could also try and influence it. And so rather than just making teeth straight, you can help someone to make their own teeth straight, which tends to be more stable, but also you can help get better development. And this could potentially have wider implications than just straight teeth. But my father before me and then myself have been trying to put forward these views. And with the internet of social media, I spotted an opportunity and I put these ideas forwards and I gained some traction. I was trying to approach mothers and, looking at the prevention angle and wanting to gain debate. I want debate on the cause of crooked teeth. That's been my central mission. I ended up starting the mewing phenomenon. I wasn't totally expecting that, to be honest. I mean, it made sense. And, I had good evidence to suggest that mewing would work. And, that's what I was teaching kids to do. But I didn't expect people to initiate this themselves or it to be quite such a phenomenon as it has been.
Yes. And the way I found you, Mike, was that I found you I was reading Mike Nestor's book, Breathe. It was a New York James Nestor, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. James Nestor. I was reading his book, Breathe, and it's a New York Times bestseller. I mean, it was such a phenomenal book. I read it twice. It is so profound, and it covers every area from the Wim Hof to, he plugged his nose for 10 days and just breathed through his mouth, and he took all his vitals for 10 days, and then he clogged up his mouth and breathed just through his nose for 10 days and took all his vitals, and just doing that, his health changed so profoundly. That I just realized firstly how important it is to breathe through your nose. And then when I got to this section on you, I remember the first time I read that book, I was like, Mew, I've got to find this Mike Mew. And then I totally forgot about it. And then I think it's been about 3 years later, I started reading the book again. And the whole time while I was reading this book, I kept on going, when is it going to get to the Mike Mew guy? Because I want to find out what this mewing thing is. It was so profound the first time I heard it, and I want to know. And then eventually I got to that section. I went onto the internet and I saw all your mewing videos, and it was just so profound, like how, especially the before and after pictures of people's jaws, how they were so set in, and then just doing this mewing for a few months, it's
pretty hardcore. You've got to change. I mean, getting change. I mean, whether that to be spiritual change, or changes in eating, or changes in body posture, or things like change in exercise level. You've got your gym bunnies and you've got your sofa slouches, and to get one to change the other, all of these things are difficult. Don't underestimate the difficulty in changing. We've got the term homeostasis in medicine. So homeostasis is the balance position you're in. And changing a homeostatic position in anyone at any point, it's a hard thing to do. It's get off your backside, lose weight, get fit.
Yeah.
These are the ultimate changes we want to achieve, or become inspired. They're hard things to do. They're not something that someone can do for you. These are things you have to do for yourself.
Yes.
And that's why they seem a slight anathema to modern medicine.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, I was interested in it because of the health benefits, because of your
Mm,
exercise, like how your breathing could improve, and like how
mm.
that book goes through so many things of how your life can change by how just changing your breathing, how it
Yeah.
cures so many diseases and so many of our health problems. And then, um, another thing that also just was so fascinating is that when I started looking for you, and I mean, obviously the side effect of this is your jaw gets like really pronounced and you start looking very handsome or beautiful. So that was like a bonus. I was like, okay, well, but then when
Well,
I saw the picture of you,
that little bonus is one of the reasons it's done well.
I know because everyone's in it for the vanity. They don't care if they're breathing well or
They don't care about their health. These kids don't care about their health at all. At all.
not.
All they care about is how they look.
But then the
But
thing,
here we have a partnership. Yeah, synergistic partnership. Yes, I want them to be healthy. They want to look good. I
yes,
think this is the same sides, different sides of the same coin.
yes. So but the thing what I was really amazed about is when I was looking for you and I eventually found you and I saw the picture of you and you talking on the internet and your jaw, you had like the most amazing jaw. I mean, I'm surprised they haven't cast you in the next like Superman movie. And I thought, there's so many health practitioners that I've gone to and they're like, they like selling something, but none of it, I can't even see it working in their lives. So when I saw the image of you, and I was like, okay, well, he's obviously something that really works because look at it, he's like, it's working so well on him. So I was
Yeah, we just
impressed.
did a video. We just did a video, the jaw that changed the world.
Okay, I gotta go.
Because if I didn't have a good, my father didn't have a good jaw. He had I think that is part of the reason this has done well, because people can see my father, they can see me, and we've got completely different jaw structures. So that just adds to the narrative. And the fact that he treated me and I've got this jaw adds to the narrative.
Mm,
And me displaying a jaw as is what I'm trying to, the objective of mewing, because you've got to develop the maxilla as well as the mandible. So, everything in balance.
yeah. So
But yeah, I think it helps.
yeah, no, I was sold immediately. I was like, this has to work. Look at him. But
Mm.
but then in the book, I just remember it kept on going. I mean, our teeth nowadays are just everyone, it's a disaster. And like I always was thinking, like, why is it such a disaster? And then in that book, it kept on going back. James went around the world with where they dug it up all these graves from, people from thousands of years ago, and everyone's teeth were immaculate and their jaws
Yeah.
and everything was just so perfect. And I mean, they didn't even have toothbrushes and toothpaste in those days, let alone like orthodontistry.
Nope.
And all their teeth were there. And I was just like, what is going on? Why is it like that? So that's one of the main reasons why I
Yeah.
wanted you to
And
come on.
James has done it was really interesting what he did. But what he's done is he's opened the first layer. And when you think how broad, how important that layer was, Lee, hello, sir. Welcome on board. Yeah, welcome on your show.
Yeah, cool. How are you, Michael? So yeah.
But anyways, sorry, Lee, we just jumped straight into it. And sorry for the
Carry on.
viewers. Yeah, Lee was a bit held up, so here he is. But anyway, so I've just asked Mike, like, what has gone wrong? Why we got crooked teeth nowadays? Why is our jaws such a disaster when 1,000 years ago we were perfect?
Yeah. So a line I often would say to patients who came into me, I said, look, I couldn't tell you if our ancestors had sleep apnea, if they had ADHD, if they have lots of these other problems. We literally have no idea. They're not here anymore. But I can say where their teeth were, or in fact, from the skulls, where their teeth still are. Because you can go up to the British Museum, you can go to museums around the world, you can go to anthropological digs anywhere in the world, and it's absolute chalk and cheese. And the pattern is really interesting. And the way I'm saying it now, so I can see that our ancestors had straight teeth, I'd say to patients. I don't know these other things, but I know how their jaws were. I know where their teeth were because we can still see those teeth. And they basically all had straight teeth. And it is really weird because, you go and see, here's my favorite, one of my Bibles from the really catchy title here, How Anthropology Informs the Orthodontic Diagnosis of Malocclusions Causes by Robert Corricini. Now, you read this book, there's absolutely no question that malocclusion, crooked teeth, aka crooked teeth, it's a modern condition. There's no question. I mean, the science is piled deep and high. And the way I describe it now, eloquently, I hope, is I say that we only need to go back to our great-grandparents, and nearly all of them had excess space for 32 teeth. Today, 4 generations later, we are struggling to have space for 28 teeth. People talk about wisdom teeth as if it was like your appendix. I don't know how many tens of millions of years ago the appendix went, and it took tens of millions of years. And the wisdom teeth are gone in 4 generations. If you're relating that to appendix loss, you really don't understand science and evolution. It's just, it's happened, but also, clearly, it's happened to all races, all cultures, all countries at a really related rate to the level of civilization. So as they've become civilized, these problems have increased. I mean, anthropologists have found thousands and thousands of burial sites. And when you look at the burial sites, you can see the level of technological development was associated with that burial site. So, you can see whether they've got Becker pottery, or whether they've got, fine pottery, or whether they've got gold and silver and iron and all of the other. The more complex the burial site, the more crooked the teeth. There's a one-on-one relationship. So, and it's really weird because you've got this whole science of anthropology and archaeology, and you have this absolute division, and then you've got orthodontics on the other side, and there's no communication between these. I see articles written within the orthodontic domain, and they're not quoting anything from this other domain. It is strange.
So, Mike, are you saying that basically it seems to be that the generations' jawlines or facial structures are kind of narrowing?
Yes. So when I'm, clearly you have to have a narrative when you talk, because I've clearly had to describe this to a lot of patients who come to see me. So the next piece of my narrative would be, okay, what's changed? Why did our ancestors have, space for 32 teeth? And why do we now struggle to have space for 28 teeth? And I'll say, all right, what's changed? Well, 2 major factors have changed. And then we can talk about the third, probably lesser factor, but all more related to the position of the teeth and the global structure. The 2 factors that seem to have changed the global structure. We've gone from this incredibly rough, tough, hard, calorie-poor diet across to this incredibly calorie-rich diet. I was to drink a glass of Coca-Cola. What's that? 320 calories in a can of Coca-Cola? How much masticatory effort do I need to achieve to get my calories?
None.
Nothing.
I mean, chewing, yeah.
Now, our ancestors couldn't do that. They needed to have a decent bit of chewing. Every calorie. I want to promote the Mew factor. The Mew factor is the relationship of the calories gained versus the calories used in your diet. So, one of the classic examples is celery. They say you consume more calories to eat celery than you gain from celery. Now, again, there's a huge gaps in our knowledge. You could have a lot of fat in the past, and that wasn't very high Mew factor. That was a very low Mew factor. But as a general rule, food in the past was tough. And one thing we forget often is that, you would cook some food, you'd make a kill in the past and you'd have some lovely meat, but you didn't know when you were going to get the next kill. So the first thing you'd do is dry as much of that food as you possibly could. And if you didn't make a kill for another month, well, the day before you made the second kill, you're eating some biltong that was pretty ropey.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I actually met someone in South Africa who had been down to an indigenous community, and he said that he was offered a piece of this guy's food, and he says he literally took a bite of this piece of. I mean, presumed it was meat. It was pretty discoloured. He couldn't take a bite. He couldn't bite into it, and this indigenous guy just went chomp, 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 and sliced straight the way through it. Yeah. And that's absolute power. Yeah. And people say, I've got a big jaw. I've got a strong jaw. A strong jaw is a big jaw. It's got enough space for my teeth, but also my airway. How do you get a strong jaw?
Do the Mewing. Get the Mewing app.
Use it. Use it, mate. That's how you get a big jaw. Now, the other thing that's changed is we're getting lots of allergies. I don't think many kids today go through their first year of life without getting a blocked nose.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't breathe through my nose until like into my late teens. I even had my adenoids taken out because my parents were like, geez, why is this guy just breathing through his mouth the whole time? And then the adenoids didn't even work. And you see pictures of me as a kid. I'm always just like this.
Do you know what the adenoidal face is?
Huh?
You know what an adenoidal face is?
No.
Google it sometime. It's the.
Okay. Do I look like that, Lee?
Compare adenoidal faces with the archetypal image of the village idiot.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I did look like the village idiot in all of my kids' pictures because I'm always like this.
And then you look at the research on sleep apnea, connect sleep apnea to adenoidal faces, and then look at the effect that sleep apnea has on IQ.
Okay, so I didn't do well at school either, so now it's all tying together. But
I'm making no aspersions here, by the way.
So, Mike, just a quick question now. So, we're busy in some teachings currently, and breathing through the nose is like one of the most utmost important things that we've kind of lost over time, because I think they're reckoning 60% of the people are mouth breathers now, where we should actually be breathing through our nose and not through the mouth.
Mouth breathers.
Lee, this is the first of the important things society has uncovered. We'll go on to being tongue on the roof of the mouth. That's going to be the next thing. You're saying, wow, tongue on the roof. Breathing through the nose is incredibly important. All right. The next thing you're going to be saying in another 10 years' time is, tongue on the roof of the mouth and having a good tongue engagement. That's really important because there's a whole catalyst. When I was talking with William earlier on, he was talking about how James Nestor had opened his eyes to the importance of nasal breathing, which you're now continuing that narrative. It's because you haven't moved on to the next bit. You were literally coming onto the surface here of craniofacial development and the importance of good oral posture. The tongue's the really important thing. Okay, getting your tongue up there, and I can't go into it. You haven't got the time scale for that sort of thing. And also, so much of what I'm in my head is early development ideas and theories. I need to validate this all. We're talking about the nasal breathing aspect. Well, my father was saying this. I got into this when I was 4 years old, listening to my father. He most of this stuff he had 30, 40 years ago. Oh, hang on, how old am I? Oh, older than that, actually.
But just give us the background of your dad and like how he got.
Let me just finish that little the story I was saying. So I was saying we've gone from this really tough diet to this really soft diet. We've then got blocked noses. Okay. Now, if you've got blocked nose, you've got two options. One, pack up your bags and have a cot death. And nearly all the cot deaths have high narrow palates. Or you're going to lower your tongue, you're going to separate your lips, and you're going to become a mouth breather for the duration of that blocked nose. When the nose clears, you may or may not return to closing your mouth, closing your lips, raising your tongue on the roof of the mouth. I think that raising the tongue on the roof of the mouth very rarely happens again. So you may come lip closure. That's often not yes and no with lip closure. Mouth hanging down, that's really common. Yeah. But again, so you'll get a permanent change. And for many of these kids, you go 2, 3, 4 events, often multiple days in the first year of life. So before you've even learnt to walk, you've developed an open mouth and then forward head posture. Think of that before you've learnt to walk.
Yes, and that's also what in James Nestor's book, he kept on saying when he went to go study these native tribes around America and that, they said the most important thing about health is breathing through your nose, and then they would make sure that the mothers would watch the babies, and they would always keep the baby's mouth closed. Even when they were sleeping, they would watch them while they're sleeping, and they would hold their mouths closed and make sure that the baby was always sleeping with the mouth closed.
Yeah.
And,
Sorry, a quick question.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask you something. Funny enough that you mentioned this now, William, I was chatting to William last night, funny enough. And I said to him that back at school, when I started doing meditations and those kind of things, my tongue automatically, no one told me, automatically went up into the back. So every time I meditate, my tongue actually hit the back of my...
Yeah, but that's in Kundalini.
So I don't know why that happened. It just happened.
That's one of your mudras. A mudra is to take your tongue and put it in the back of your throat, or put the tongue on the top of your throat.
Not too far
circuit.
back.
That's like another energy, one of your meridians to connect it. So I think that's also like, even though Mike's saying that you got to keep your tongue on the roof for so many of those health benefits, there's also like a subtle body kind of effect it's also having, because it's closing a circuit in your subtle body energy, your meridians or whatever. And that's also another health benefit that I think that science hasn't, probably will take another 100 years to find that out.
Yeah.
No, but I just wanted to know from Mark's point of view why automatically that I was doing that. Even now when I meditate, it's an automatic thing that I do when I meditate.
Because you want to close the circuit.
I think what I've observed in my hunt down for answers is that the alternative health world and areas of spirituality, they're often highlighting signs of where we should be going. I mean, I've been interested in how many times old wives' tales, and we could go into a few, turn out to have an element of the truth in them. And how I almost think that medicine has been a bit angry about this and aims to put down all of these ideas because they've had a habit of catching up with medicine and being proven right at times.
Yeah, that's what even Sadhguru said, that we're spending millions of dollars on these studies that our grandmothers knew intuitively.
Anyway, let me finish that little narrative I was doing.
Sorry, we're going all over the place.
That's right. I'll keep it together. We've gone from the situation with really massively strong musculature and closed mouth postures. You know, you look at that guy walking off the African Serengeti, the guy walking out the Brazilian rainforest, or the guy walking off the the Australian outback. You know, very much more similarities between them than there are between modern groups today and craniofacial characteristics today. That's interesting. But they had good facial form. They had really good facial architecture. They had big, broad smiles. They had space for all their teeth. And then, of course, we've got weak-jawed. We've got hung our mouths open because we've got open mouth postures. That's been changed. It's become a habit. So even when your nose clears, you still have an open mouth posture. Well, if you're standing around like this, you've seen someone who's had a stroke. Have a stroke at 80 years old. You'll see what the face drops. Okay? And that's only the surface musculature. Now, what I'm suggesting is that basically all of modern humanity has had a bilateral stroke. And their faces have lengthened. And you've only got so much face. So if the face is longer, it's going to be narrower and it's going to be shallower. So you see the real obvious markers is the lack of cheekbones in most people and narrow smiles. And you just go back into any of those tribal communities and you'll see completely the reverse in all the groups and all our ancestors from the history of time. I mean, you know, with this new North African Mediterranean findings, we're thinking Homo sapiens go back at least 350,000 years. We only got problems in the last 4 generations. Well, some goes back. Look at some of Roman aristocracy. You know, these traits go back thousands of years. Because if you can live on milk and honey, doesn't matter which era you developed in. And then you get the concept of the noble face. Oh, that's another angle we could go down, but possibly not today.
But this whole thing, it also affects your posture, because that's what that's why we all like slumped over.
You make a compensation. You need to make 2 general compensations when your face isn't developing well, because you've still got to breathe, you've got to eat, you've got to better talk, you've got to better rest, all of these different functions you have to do. So you then go into different postures. Now, within the mouth, you can rest the tongue in different places. And I think that's what's going to derive the different types of what we refer to as malocclusion. So you have the malocclusion like this, the malocclusion like this, and the various different types of malocclusion. Well, those types of malocclusion, they will be predicated on your pattern of compensation. Where you've got a massive tongue, you've got to get it out of your airway, you've got to be able to breathe, you've got to be able to speak, you've got to be able to eat. So you are going to choose a pattern where you can put that. And there may clearly be familial links in that. You know, the way you go wrong may well have familial links, and it doesn't really mean that it's a familial pattern of physiology, it's a familial pattern of pathology. And that's why people go, oh, well, you tend to get class 3s in Asia, and you tend to get class 2s in the European population. And so they go, oh, must be genetic. And I go, run that one again, please, guys. Because you didn't have any of this. There was none of this in the past. You never got class 2s or class 3s back. You know, you need to go back a decent way, 1,000 years. You've got never get those types of what we refer to as skeletal malocclusion rather than dental malocclusion, where the skeleton is in the wrong place.
So like Mr. Bean is a classic example.
Well, yeah. It's important. He is an example.
What was it your dad who put on the internet that Mark Zuckerberg's got to do something about the
yes. Dad wasn't. I think I've even pointed out, because Mark Zuckerberg's a great example of someone who's got a downswing in facial form.
But then Mark Zuckerberg made sure that got taken down. Because it caused such a thing.
I wouldn't know, but it would not surprise me if my father was saying that. But you worry about someone like Mark Zuckerberg. He's a high candidate for getting sleep disordered breathing. And why? What's happening? Because we're talking about teeth and we're talking about facial development, and malocclusion isn't the biggest, most important thing in most people's lives. But how they sleep is massively important. Because sleep apnea will take a decade off your life expectancy.
Yeah.
That's a big thing.
With the
sleep 1/3 of our life.
Because on your app, there's a thing with the taping your mouth closed, right, while you sleep. So I've been doing that.
Yeah.
And the funny thing was that, like, the last maybe 3 years, I've been getting up in the middle of the night and having a wee every single night. And I just was like, oh, I'm getting old. My dad, he complains about it all the time. It's an old age thing. Like, I suppose this is what happens. You get to 40 and you got to wake up in the middle of the night and go to the toilet. Now I've put the tape on every night, and after 3 nights, I've done it for about 4 weeks now. I've not once got up in the middle of the night and gone to the toilet.
Yeah.
And it's
I have to warn people they should theoretically I should warn people they need to take medical advice before they put tape on their lips at night. But a good test is put tape on your lips during the daytime, and if you can put tape on your lips during the daytime, yeah, you probably have a fair chance of going through the night as well. But clearly you need to be careful, and I'm not recommending it as a doctor.
Okay, but and also I would sleep through the night as well.
Yeah. I mean, I just, as I was saying with this, there's now enough accumulated information that's loosely available on the surface for you to validate this importance of breathing. Let's go on to the importance of tongue posture.
Yes, sorry.
Good swallowing and good
keep us
body.
on track here, Mike. We're all over the place. Okay.
So it's the next step. What's the most important part of your body?
Yeah.
The most intricate, the most delicate. I would say clearly I've got a biased here, but I would say your head, and particularly the facial complex, is one of the most vitally important parts of your body.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, if our ancestors had space for over 32 teeth, today you're lucky to have space for 28 teeth. You've got a seismic, I mean, that's a really big change in shape. Something that ain't the right shape don't work properly.
Yeah.
And that's a huge change. I mean, I would estimate that a quarter of the health problems, and let's just say health spending with most health authorities, is due to the fact faces aren't growing properly. And none of you are aware of it. None. I mean, it's just like, in fact, I would go the other way. If I start pointing that out to people, they get quite upset. They really do. It seems it hits on a nerve somehow with people. And I think that's why we've not seen so much change, because you've not only got the medical industry is treating this as if, there's the fact that we have an unknown etiology. Etiology is the cause. So within the orthodontic science, we say we don't understand the cause of the problem. It's an unknown etiology. That's not hidden within, I could find it in one of the textbooks here, but it's clearly, it's graphically displayed that they don't know the cause of the problem. And, well, they do in 5% of the cases, but most of those are going to be thumb suckers or tongue, which are environmental problems. The number of clearly observable genetic problems is well less than 1%. And those are there's some really nasty syndromes, and, tucked away out there, some people who don't grow well. And it's a real shame. And we'll do everything we can for them. But they are not the majority. They're a rare minority. And it's openly admitted within my profession. However, having admitted it, they then go on to treat occlusion, malocclusion, as if it were genetic. And yet the evidence is stacked, is piled high and deep within respected peer-reviewed journals that it's the environment. But you don't make money trying to change kids. It doesn't make money. You make money fixing people once the problem's happened. And that's the tendency within, you've got all of the different sectors dealing with this area. You've got the ENT surgeons, you've got the people within the sleep apnea and sleep disordered breathing, you've got the orthodontists, you've got the surgeons doing maxillofacial surgery. You've even got the optometrists and the other people looking at eyes, and they're all in their own little silo. That's what we've got in medicine now, that don't really talk to each other, and they all tend to be reactionary. There's a problem, we've got a way of fixing it, and this is how we're going to fix it. And that's modern medicine. Modern medicine's not looking at prevention. I mean, I was interested in who's this, the Kennedy guy Trump got in. And I don't know how well he's doing, but I was interested in his objective of changing the emphasis from healthcare to wellness, wasn't he?
Mm.
And I like that attitude because, and I was hoping he was going to shake things up. Yes, I don't know what's going on there. I can't comment. But this idea of we need to be talking about wellness. And of course, we've got the whole wellness industry. I'm saying that you need to make yourself better. You've got to change yourself. You know, we were talking about old wives' tales before. Okay. Well, what's that old wives' tale? Stand up straight and shut your mouth. That's mewing, isn't it? Your face will change. The wind will change and your face will set like that. That's the problem we're talking about.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense now. Don't pull that face. It'll stick like that, yeah.
So tell us about the tongue and the roof. Why is it
the idea, now here's the problem, because if your face has morphed, you've downswung, okay? You've downswung. I mean, Lee, your face has downswung. Okay? You've got to
just roast us. Like
no, that's fine. That's fine.
You see, as soon as you start mentioning to someone about facial form, you know, we were talking about blood cholesterol, we were talking about blood pressure, we were talking about any physiology marker. We can talk about this in a rational conversation. As soon as you start talking about someone's face, you no longer have a rational conversation.
No, yeah, I don't mind. You carry on.
Yeah, but otherwise. So the problem here, Lee, is that you may find, so we were talking two compensations. The first compensation is you put your tongue in a different place. Okay, so it's comfortable. You can do your functions and posture. The second thing you do is a forward head posture. Okay, so, and this is something James Nestor took, and I'm just saying it's, you know, if you're going to do resuscitation, you do the CPR, you go through ABC, airway, breathing, circulation. So the first thing you do in airway is tip people's head back to open up their airway. Okay. Well, if you've got a collapsed maxilla mid-face, your jaw's set back, you've lost space. You know, you've got a greater vertical, reduced cross-sectional area. Then what are you going to do to open your tongue? And in fact, a guy called it'll come to me, did an experiment on this. What he did, he got students, he put bugs on their noses, and he watched what happens. The first thing they did was tip their heads back. Yeah, well, they open their mouths. And you try it now. If you open your mouth, you find it's a little bit uncomfortable down here.
Yeah.
So what'll happen, within about a couple of minutes, your head will tip back. And then a few minutes after that, you'll move your head forward. So you've gone from here to here.
Yeah.
And what do you see? What is the normal human condition? Forward head posture with the mouth open.
Everybody slumps down.
Yeah. Now, the problem being now, then when you lack space, then Lee, you want to recover. So you've got a forward head posture. Yeah, your head's here. Now, what you want to do is get a tongue on the roof of the mouth and suck it up. You have to identify the back third. That's the really important part, because remember, the front 2/3 of your tongue are from ectodermal origin. The back third is from endodermal origin. Yeah, and you want to get that inner autonomic, you know, the deep, because you want to remember to do this, because it's got to be a natural thing. So you've got to get those inner tissues working properly. So that means engaging the back third of the tongue. And that's the whole process of why I've got an app to do it, because you've got to kind of understand a few more things than simple. So you've just got to remember to do these things. And by getting the back third of your tongue, you can log into your old system. Serena, can you close the door? Hello. So, And so, but the problem is that for a lot of people, when you unwind those two compensations, their tongue's not going to fit within their mouth. And the tongue's not going to fit on the roof of your mouth because they're so structurally deficient that they're going to struggle to exhibit normal posture and function because they don't have the space. And there's, when you look in, go in online and look at this expansion, look at something like MSE, maxillary surgical expansion, and the MARPE, which is putting screws into the roof of the mouth in adults and literally ripping the skull apart to try and provide more space for them. And I think that this has become big business, as has maxillofacial surgery, to try and correct these problems in adults. And yes, it can be really helpful for adults to help themselves. Don't forget, the relapse after these surgeries can be unbelievable because if you don't change the base premise, you'll go back to the same point. And
so the Mewing is like,
overlooked.
So your Mewing app, so those exercises, like you don't have to go through, you don't have to do that invasive surgery.
Well, okay, when you're going to try and do Mewing, you've got to come to a conclusion. Okay, either you're going to do perfect Mewing, but you need to have reasonable structure to be able to mew perfectly. So, William, you might be able to do it. Lee, you would struggle to do it. Okay, now then we go. So what we go, Lee, William, if you really pushed it, you could slowly at a glacial pace. However, remember, what else are you doing with your tongue? What else are you doing with your oral complex? Now, even if it's glacial, get going. You want to get fit. Well, that's a glacial process, and it's going to get glacial rewards. But you want to get fit. You want to lose weight. That's a glacial process. They're all slow processes.
Consistency is the key, yeah.
Yeah, but you want to be going in the right direction. Now, Lee, then you have to make a decision, yeah? Because, you're thinking to yourself, well, could I have an assistance to help gain some structural change so that I could then go on to improve my posture and function so I continue this virtuous cycle of change? Then you've got to factor in, you can't do this, there are age-related issues here. But you've got to, or you can make compromises. So what you're going to do is to, yes, bit more tea, Vicar. So what you're going to do, if you're going to make compromise, then you accept a slight forward head posture. You accept that your tongue might be slightly between your teeth, and you try and improve on that point. But in essence, what you've got with Mewing is this really simple biohack. We all know we should stand up straight with our mouth together. What we're going to do here is use a vacuuming out the mouth to maintain that. So just create a vacuum in the mouth. Because if you create a vacuum in the mouth, you'll hold your mouth closed with no effort. And when you do, and it's a strange thing is, because if I get a really good suction hold in my mouth, I want to stand up straight. As soon as I let go of the suction hold, I come down. As soon as you get a good suction hold, you want to stand straighter. So it's a good suction hold. As soon as I let go, you drop. But how much effort does it take to hold suction? 0. And that's the whole point. And that should have been a natural thing. And it's losing that suction because you had to breathe out your mouth, sorry. You had to breathe out your mouth because you decided you wanted to live. You had a blocked nose. So you made that sacrifice. But living was more important. So you made the sacrifice. And you threw away this physiological suction process that held you in better posture. And it's a simple biohack. You just suction yourself up and you can maintain a good, better body posture. And then also, of course, because you've got to suck the tongue into that position, that gentle, progressive pressure will develop the midface and the face in general. I mean, again, go back to that person having a stroke at 80 years old and seeing sizable changes in their bone structure. Now, I don't know how, I think we're only scratching the surface of what we're going to achieve. I recently, one of my rules is to leave no stone unturned in my quest for the truth, because I think there's lumps of gold lying around on the ground, and most of the modern medical professions walking around going, no, I'm not look at that, I'm not look down. It's like they're not even gonna look. As we were talking earlier on about the themes and trends that go all the way through meditation, like tongue being on the roof of the mouth. Why is this trend running through all of these areas? What's in it? You can smell and sniff something. That's strange. Just on a basis of chance that so many different meditation ideas have picked up on the same thing. Why has that chance occurred several times? So my whole process is leave no stone unturned. No one else is looking. It's down to me. I want to make people better. I cannot pass another child in the street who's, when I look at their face, I know from across the street that they are going to have a world of pain. And it could be supported. Just telling the mother, get the child to stand up straight, shut their mouth, go into chewing gum. We should be chewing a tough chewing 3 to 4 hours a day. Well, get some chewing gum. Okay. I struggle to get my daughters really into chewing gum. I think that's a girl-boy issue. My sister got her kids into chewing gum. She's a physio, and I said, right, get going with the gum. Brilliant facial forms, huge, great big dental arches. It's simple. Just give your kids chewing gum.
To get smacked over the head if I was chewing gum as a kid.
Yeah, some good South African upbringing.
It's so hard that gum flies out of your mouth.
But even when I worked in South Africa, and I worked out. So I lectured in dentistry for just a short period, a couple of months, and I remember going out into a township, and I had a lot of patients coming in from, way out, wherever. And I couldn't get over the craniofacial development of these guys. Huge, great big craniofacial structures. Never seen an orthodontist. But until they saw me, they'd never seen a dentist.
Yeah, and they're big into their meat. I mean, they'll eat the, tough meat.
Tough, real tough. Yeah. And I don't know everything because, I really was looking, and a lot saw in South Africa, a lot of the guys that would just eat mealy or 3 meals a day. And that wasn't particularly tough.
Yeah. And
it really makes, I'm thinking, well, yeah, but they still had to do a little bit of grinding at the bottom to digest that stuff. And I don't have all the answers. It's not that obvious and plain, but we need research. And one of my missions, so from 2009, I wrote an article, guest editorial in the British Dental Journal called The Black Swan, asking for a debate on the etiology of malocclusion within my profession. And I then did a 6-year letter writing campaign, just saying, look, I wrote to everyone, Minister of Health, All Party Dental Committee. I got a question in the House of Lords, just saying, look, hang around. We're spending how much of the national purse on orthodontics? We could really consider prevention, and we should just be having debate. And we openly admit that we have no idea what the cause is within the profession, and yet the evidence is piled up deep and high. Just I'm trying to get my profession to engage in the scientific process.
Yeah.
So that, you would assume that the scientific process is the base level thing that professions are going to engage in.
So what did they do with your dad when he came with this whole mewing thing?
They sidelined him.
And I mean, because
My
there's
father
so many
made them.
pictures.
He made
I
the
mean,
mistake of saying he didn't come up with the mewing thing. I came up with the mewing. He came up with orthotropics.
okay.
So orthotropics. So you think orthodontics, that means straight teeth. Orthotropics is straight growth. Tropos means growth. And so he tried to provide the answers to the problem. And of course, when someone's trying to promote the treatment system that they created, well, all you've got to say is, oh, well, your treatment system has a problem here or a problem there or whatever. It's easy to knock that down. So I've avoided coming up with all the answers to the problem. Of course, his treatment system, it's a great system, but it requires the child to change. If the child doesn't change, you don't get the result. And that's not cost effective to do. You can put braces on and make the teeth straight. You know what you're going to do. You know kind of the outcome, although you don't know how the posture and function will be affected. So there's room for problems.
Okay. Then how did you come up with the mewing? How did you come up with the mewing?
So what I was doing was I wanted to, so I took a guy on board in my clinic who said, look, what you need to do, social media just started. He said, you need to get out there on social media because that's the best way to promote your clinic. So I took my father's idea. I bought out the practice from him. I decided, right, I was going to get this system working. And I would say about 3 years ago last summer, I had the clinic was humming. We had patients walking through the door, the right types of patients. We were had the right staff. We had all the right equipment. I had really got it going. And then I started losing team members because I couldn't pay them enough.
Because you
Just couldn't pay them enough. We just didn't make enough profit.
Oh, sure.
Even though you were seeing a lot of people.
Yeah, but it just wasn't profitable. I was, a normal orthodontist, you spend 3 or 4 hours time actually with the orthodontist. I was spending 40 hours time with the patients.
Okay.
That's not profitable.
Well, because your mewing thing was so effective,
and it wasn't this. So that was the treatment. Now, clearly, in parallel with building up the clinic, I was marketing and advertising and trying to spread the word because this is interesting stuff. It's interesting whenever I have a conversation with people, they find it fascinating. It is fascinating. This is your face. This, to a greater extent, is you. And I'm telling you things you just didn't, but it makes sense because I'm taking stuff you already know and lining it up in a way that, oh, that makes sense. You seem to be talking the truth. And clearly, I wanted to put this stuff out into the wider world. I've got this guy helping me with the marketing. He's saying, look, YouTube started. He said, you could have a website. Let's say that's 4 points. He said, each video is 1 point. And you can bang out videos till the cows come home. And so I thought, great. And we were banging out videos. We'd do a session where they'd go to me, right, Mike, we're going to do 4 videos now. You're going to get 3 minutes to think about each video, and then we're going to film it. And that's what I did. 3 minutes. What's an overbite? What's an overjet? Can you explain? And you just think quickly and then come out with the first thing you say. And we take the best 5 for that afternoon. And then we were pumping out videos. And because I was itching, I said, well, that's not really what I want to do. I want to tell the world what's happening. You've got this stuff in your head. I can't pass these kids in the street. It just hurts me. I'm a doctor. I want to make people better. And it's so simple. Just work out what to do. So anyway, I was starting to put videos up on this subject. But then I was asked to go and give this lecture for something called the 21 Convention. And if I had actually done so I checked your channel out before I came on here, and I thought, yeah, these guys, they're alternative subjects, but you're approaching it in a scientific, credible angle. Great. That's what I like to see. So I then went, but I didn't check these guys out, the 21 Convention, but it was like one of these godsends. My wife was working for my best mate in Covent Garden. It was just beside there. It was just at the right time for me between work and meeting my wife and my mate after work. Whatever. They were told me they'd do a proper presentation and put it on the internet. Great. So I turned up, I gave this presentation, and the guy before me, was a pickup artist. And I was going, wow, I've never even considered these things before. And anyway, and the audience they didn't have the term at that moment, but the audience went on to becoming what you would call incels. I didn't know what it was at the time. I don't think that term even existed at that moment in time. Anyway, I gave this lecture and I was swamped. At the end of the lecture, you can go and find it, it's the 21 convention Mike Mew. At the end of the lecture, the entire audience came and I'm just packing my computer up and heading off. Entire audience is there on top of me. And I'm going, and they're all going to me, well, how do we get this change ourselves? I gave them the overview of the problem. You can look at the lecture, and then the overview of what treatment we did, which explained expansion, functional type appliances that hold your jaw forward, and then training and exercises. And they swamped me and they said, oh, well, how can we get these changes ourselves? And I was going, well, you'd be crazy to try. It's really difficult. But on the other hand, you'd be crazy not to try. Because it's stand up straight, shut your mouth. Everyone knows it's good for you. It's not rocket science. It's just basic physiology. Mm-hmm. And then then we started to field questions. We had a Google alert on my name, so I was answering some questions, some weird and wonderful forms. And then it took off. And then I saw people who had got really strong, obvious facial changes. And I just stood there and I just went, wow, these guys are really rocking it. And of course, it's still 17, 18 when they really could get changes. And they were just hyper-focused. And it's not a difficult thing to do. It's difficult to remember to do it.
Mm. So, yeah, because I mean, like when I go see the pictures, like if you have some of the pictures, you can show us.
No, I haven't, because I'm not wanting to take credit for the cases that were treated by themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, I've used them. I've shown pictures. I've just gone, wow! Didn't these kids get a great result?
Yeah, no. I mean, I've seen like so many great results with it all over the internet. I mean, like there's so many guys like with their videos, like, look, this is how I started, and you look at them, the side profile, the front profile, and you just like, and then what happened to them afterwards is like, wow, this is incredible.
Yeah, William. What I know as well was I would treat people and we would get a nice change in them. And often you could see this guy had changed completely. But when you held the photographs up, it was really quite subtle on the photographs. So those photographs you're seeing, where it's obvious on the photographs, that has been an absolute life change for these people. And as they say, the proof's in the pudding. These guys have no question. To them, it is clear and obvious. This has changed them. It doesn't give you the appreciation of change you have in your health and your sense of wellness and your sense of, we're talking about the tongue and the roof of the mouth, and I said that's going to come into the next thing. And I think the effect on the parasympathetic system, the effect on your whole wellness. And I've got theories that just run on and on and on and on into the distance. And I think they will come to fruition in time, and people will realize just how healthy this is for you. What an important physiological thing having the tongue working on the roof of the mouth is.
Yeah, and I mean, because it like the people like James Nestor in his book, he even took an X-ray, or what do you call it, where they like see your bone mass in your face?
I think in his book because he was seen by Ted. Oh, Ted Love, it was like a granddad figure to me often, but
the thing was because he wasn't, yeah, because he didn't put the time in to do the mewing. He was like, no, I'm just gonna do the.
He did an appliance.
He did an appliance.
Yeah, he did Ted's appliance.
Yes. So,
That
but what I'm trying to get to is that, like, okay, so he did the appliance instead of doing the mewing, and people said it's impossible to get bone density back in your face after a certain age. Like you could not grow bone.
wait a minute, William. We're talking bone density, as in the density of the bone. Yeah, that's hard to get back. That's an osteoporotic. It goes one way. We're talking actual bone dimensional change. I think that's what he was arguing on.
No, I think he also said bone density. So he put the thing he did that procedure, which is like you could have done it with mewing, but he didn't want to go through the exercises.
The hard work.
And they did the CT scan or whatever you do to measure your bones and the X-rays and whatever. And he had grown like, I don't know, 15% more bone density in his cheeks. And
what they noticed, things have moved outwards.
Yeah.
So he gained a certain amount of volume within his craniofacial structure.
Yes, but with the mewing, that you also do that because I see the pictures of the people's actual like teeth, like their jaw, like widening outwards. And even on your app, before you, because in the app, when I signed up, you take a picture of the front and then the side, and then you also have to bite down onto some wax paper and measure.
We want to improve that. I want to get it in so that we can do that with a facial scan using the camera of your phone. I think that's what I want to get to.
Okay, yeah. So, but I mean, it's still quite impressive with really how it is. And then you also measure your teeth. So the spaces of your teeth. And yeah, it's just quite amazing how it's actually people's, like the top of their jaw actually expands.
Yeah. And I think I think that to just do it with your tongue is very possible, but it takes a long period of time. Okay, but I'm starting to see these techniques coming on now, like thumb pulling. I was interviewing someone called Oscar Patel, who has this platform where he does thumb pulling, and he's getting real clear. What they're doing is, are you familiar with craniosacral therapy or cranial osteopathy?
No.
Okay, so whenever someone asks my wallet,
Jeez, you're getting mugged on the show. You're getting mugged on the show.
No. So where was I? There's lots of these alternative methods coming up. I think we are, cranial osteopathy and craniosacral therapy. So the head is made of, I can't remember, 25, 30 different bones, escapes me at the moment. But those bones articulate, so they move against each other. They're different bones. And when you look at cranial osteopathy came from osteopaths, and craniosacral therapy came from chiropractors. And these two different specialities came to very similar conclusions. And that always interests me again, because it's happened twice. And what they do is they feel the bones of the head, and they believe they can read a lot of information from it. Now, that's disputed by many other parts of medicine. But the fact that these bones move, they do. When you look at the junctions of the bones, they must move in the manner the cranial osteopaths say, because you can see from the junction, it's obvious. Now, what these guys who are thumb pulling are doing is hijacking this process, and they're literally yanking. They're sitting there like this, and they're doing this with the bones enough times in the day, and doing enough clever techniques, all based on what I've done in mewing, and they seem to be getting much hyped up results in much older people. And then I'm thinking to myself, great, we've opened the door here, we've opened Pandora's box. Because, right, what we could do, right, what could we do with like supplements? What we could do with other medications? What could we do with, we start putting in every different angle, then we start looking at body postures. How can we affect the rest of the body posture? Because it's all connected, head posture and body posture. So I think we've opened Pandora's box on a whole new science. Just as we have gym bunnies in the aerobic health fitness world. And we've got the iron bulls in the anaerobic fitness world. We've now got the Mewers. Just so we know you can affect your physical structure, we're now realizing you can affect your facial structure. So we've just added a whole sector within the wellness environment. And
Yes.
you can't close Pandora's box again, mate. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. It's out. People know you can do this. And it's going to have an effect on all of the healthcare providers who have assumed that this structure is genetic and assumed all the problems are genetic.
So how's the medical society taking this now?
They've struck me off. They've suspended me. And I think it was a farce. As I said, I had a 6-year letter writing campaign trying to argue the etiology. Yeah. And then I went into a case and they didn't find I'd damaged anyone. In fact, there were 2 patients. One was overjoyed with the treatment. The mother's become a good friend. Overjoyed with the treatment. Beautiful, successful result. Wonderful. The other patient didn't actually even properly start the treatment. About 2 months of treatment. I didn't even do it. Someone else did it. So you can only get me on the philosophy and the theory behind it. So the British authorities are not supposed to judge you on theory and concepts. It's not for the regulator to decide what treatments should be done. And yet that's precisely what they decided. So they decided that the philosophical arguments that I was making were wrong, but to do that, the central key they had to argue first was it was predominantly genetic. So let's think about this. I argued for an open debate in a scientific forum for 6 years, exhausting every angle. I then go in to a legal court where this discussion, we didn't even really have the discussion. They just decided it was mainly genetic. No evidence was presented. That was what the committee decided. And on that domino, that central domino, then everything else, and I was suspended. So I was in the High Court in January, and if I win the High Court, that's going to be, it's almost more scary if I win, because what's that going to do to the whole medical establishment within this area? Because they were wrong in what they did.
So wait, sorry, I'm just, it would be incredible. So wait, is that in January, this coming January?
It was in January gone. We were expecting, we were hoping to have the results in late February, early March. But it's been delayed. It's clearly been delayed because no one's got back. My barrister is feeling it's going to be May by the time because there was 2 bundles. The bundle is what you put in the court case when you go in, because the bundle is, or you have to have all the information exactly organized in the same way so that everyone shares from the same documents. That's a bundle. First bundle was your actual specific court documents, your court argument. Second bundle was all the supporting information from the original court case. And that supporting material was 8,020 pages long. This is the biggest court case I believe in, certainly in dentistry, and I believe in medicine. And that cost me everything.
Jeez. Oh gosh, sorry, Mark. Jeez.
That's okay. All right.
Yep. You were so lost. Because you can't even practice now. So what?
I'm not. But this is the annoying thing, because all the evidence, I believe, suggests that I'm completely right. Everything says I'm right. But of course, medical tribunals aren't like that. They're set up to determine whether you're safe to practice. That's the principal reason. Clearly, I was safe to practice. They determined I was safe, but they worried that I had risks because they determined the main cause of the problem was genetics, and I was treating it as if it was the environment. So they determined on that basis that I pose a risk by it was, in my opinion, a farce. But we will see.
Sorry, but I'm a bit confused. How did it spark off? What happened?
I had a patient. So the patient that was completely, the mother was overjoyed with the treatment. The treatment went very well. Everyone was happy. That patient went to she was concerned they had a tongue tie. they went to have the tongue tie revised, and the surgeon that worked in the hospital I used to work in, who it was in my old department, he dobbed me in, sent me to the cleaners.
So he said, well, he like looked and he saw like, okay, well, he's done something.
No, he
It's
just
clearly
said,
worked.
yeah, they said you've got an appliance in the mouth at 6 years old. I was 7 years old, I think. They shouldn't have appliance at 7. You need to wait till the teeth are there and straighten the teeth. And that was one of the findings in this court case. You could have waited and see how the teeth. Well, hang around. If it's the environment, you want to get in as early as possible. Because crooked teeth are a sign of the problem. They're not the problem. And when you've got things as basic as this, so when you think about all those, you've got all the x-rays. You go into the orthodontist, they take an x-ray of your head. Well, those x-rays were taken in the middle of the last century. They're taken in the 1950s and 60s. And they were taking on people who had 28 straight teeth, not 32 teeth. So as soon as you start looking at that and you're going, well, hang around, you've got your gold standard in the wrong place. And when it runs as deep, so what I'm trying to suggest is that, I don't want to knock orthodontics. Orthodontists get great straight teeth. They're doing what they say on the tin. I'm saying that if you understood the cause of the problem, I'm sure it would help speed your treatments, make them more efficient, and make them more stable, and potentially remove some of the other weird factors like sleep apnea, snoring, forward head postures, jaw joint problems, grinding and bruxing, and all these other things that's just out there that aren't really well understood. If you look from an environmental perspective, you look at the concept of craniofacial dystrophy, because if it's environment, then you have to have a pathological process via which it works. If it's genetic, it just happens. You don't need to worry about the pathology. But if there's an environmental component, and of course you can't argue there isn't a component from the environment, then there has to be a pathological process by which this works. And simply not having a pathological process is not really very defensible. Not even thinking about it. And you've got all of these professions focused on the head. As I said, I think it's a quarter of the health problems with modern humanity are derived from this structure not being the right shape. And not even having a paddle, not even having a punt. Oh, what do you reckon, mate? Do you reckon it's like this or it's like this? No, we're not going to argue that subject.
Yeah.
So I put together a philosophy, and what I wanted to do was describe that philosophy to the patients and describe what we were trying to do to the patients. I thought it was very honest, sensible, and honourable to have a document that described what I wanted to get from these patients I was treating. And it was that document that they pulled holes in, and they said I didn't have adequate clinical evidence to validate. And so that's what I was brought down on. I was not brought down on the treatment. I was brought down on the explanatory document I gave to patients. And they just said, look, this is all nonsense. But there was no alternative. It's just, you can't prove it. And it's a really difficult line to take, because what can you prove in medicine? There's so many areas of medicine that you can't prove.
Yeah.
And so they just had a field day picking holes in my argument. And anyway, we'll see what happens when the court case comes out. You can go online. I've got bits on my.
It's like that guy that when he found the guy that found the germ. The first, like it was in a hospital, and he would wash his hands with.
The guy who looked at washing hands. God, the name escapes me as well at the moment.
And it was at that hospital, and they had
in Germany, I think it was.
Yeah, I think so. And then it was they were giving birth on it was a maternity hospital, giving birth on the 2 different floors, and on the top floor they were washing their hands with
carbolic soda,
bleach the whole time.
Yeah,
and those babies, there was a mortality rate was a lot less than the one below that they weren't washing their hands, and the doctor kept on saying it's these things that we can't see in our hands called, I don't know if you label it germs. and he got taken down. The medical.
Yeah, apparently he ended up in a mental asylum.
Yeah, and I think he killed himself or something. But anyway, so it was, and he got totally destroyed because he said no, that
Yeah,
there's these things called germs,
yeah,
but we see that through so many things in history. I mean, with Galileo, and you can name it. But the thing is that they've come to this. There's a term now where they say that somebody comes up with a new concept. It's completely like people tear it apart and get angry, and they completely attack it, and then it becomes found out, oh, it's true, and then everybody just
yeah. But they say first they ignore you, then
yes,
they fight you, and then you won.
Yeah.
yeah. But there's a whole technical term now that they say that there's the four stages of everything new discovery.
Yeah,
There's four stages of every new discovery. It's like it's fought, it's whatever you get abolished, and then
yeah,
they accept it, and
yeah,
it
yeah.
becomes normal. And
But
that's
this
what
is
you're
this
going
is.
through, maybe.
I think, and I've thought clearly. I've thought about this a little bit in my times, and I think that the types of people that get through exams are very good at absorbing information. You know, what we talk about, the people who have the photographic memory and the people, you know, we're promoting people who are basically photocopies in calculators.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's many people think they're the people who are brains. You know,
yeah,
it's almost, you know, the epitome of someone brains who can remember a whole book and quote what page number it was. Yeah, exactly what Einstein couldn't do.
yeah,
And it's interesting because what the people that change the world are, well, we now know they're all the people on the spectrum who
yeah,
struggle to get through their exams, who were often considered the worst in the class, who just made it,
yeah,
and who then just say the complaint, just look at this isn't right. This doesn't add up. But if you know, and the problem is the higher and higher up you are on the scholastic ladder, the more, you know, I remember I wanted to take this exam and I stacked the books up and they came to here from the floor. I didn't take that exam. I knew I could never take that exam. I'd have never done it. I'd have never completed that exam. Because that was a really finite ability to absorb and repeat information.
mm.
Well, the
Parrot,
people
yeah.
at top of professions have done that, and they can absorb and repeat information. They don't have time, they don't have the skill set to reflect and process that information. You can't do both.
No imagination, yeah.
No. And then of course, they're the ones that go on to become professors. And, you know, being a professor is about you setting the truth where you don't want someone to come along and disturb the truth that you've set.
Mm. Yeah.
And it ain't going to change. I've got some ideas though, but you know, that depends whether or not I get. You know, this is you meet me in the absolute low point. Yeah, I would say the low point was this time last year when I was getting post-traumatic stress just sitting at a computer. Because you know but that's what you know big corporations do to the little man, isn't it?
Yeah.
They win by they just throw legal cases at you, and there's nothing more you can do. You can't cope with it.
Hmm.
You just all you can do is survive. And you know, at the moment, it's trying to make paying the bills at the end of the month. And I know there's, you know, I set up a website because I was hoping, you know, because legal things take longer than you imagine all the time. This court case the appeal got put back twice. Okay, it's been 6 months longer. And so I put up a website where I said, look, I'll be going and doing consultations. There must be 1,000 people signed up to do consultations with me. I could make better income doing consultations than I was making in my clinic when I was, you know, paying the cleaner more than I was paying myself.
She said, but
But I can't do that because I'm not legally allowed to give these people the knowledge that I have.
she's really
There we go.
wow.
Yeah, you can only laugh because what else could you do?
Yeah, geez.
And that's what happens. You don't stick your head out. Don't challenge people with power because they have power over you.
Jeez.
No, I don't care. I'll challenge anybody. That's fine.
Yeah, but you don't have a license you can lose though, Mark and Lee. So
Yeah, and of
what
course,
is it?
You got a life you can lose, but I don't really stress about that.
yes,
So where's it from? Where from now, Mark? What are you gonna do?
hmm?
What have you? Where are you gonna go from here?
Well, so clearly, I'd always thought. I mean, the whole mewing thing, I thought was really interesting. We were making the app took way longer to do than we wanted to make it doing. We got that out, and then I didn't expect to lose the court case because I got a really good barrister. I went independently. I didn't use the guys provided by my insurance company, and in a way that was good. In a way it was bad. I hope it will prove to be good. But it cost me a lot of money. And then, of course, my business, then I had to just fold my business because, however valuable the business was, and it was a really good business, but what have I got? I've got bits of wire and pliers and some dental chairs. By the time you've let everyone go, there's nothing left. There's nothing to sell. There's no inherent value in it unless I can sell it as a going business. So that wiped me out. But so then all of a sudden I had to think about, well, all those crazy ideas, Mike, you've got to now make businesses out of them. And you've got to do this fast because you can only survive for a short period of time on the income you've got. And you've got to get out there. So I've managed to get out there, and I think it was this month we actually just with my wife working, we've leveled up on a level balance sheet. I've sort of paid my taxes now, but so I'm in lieu to the government, but I'm just about safe now. Now, if I can get these businesses going, I'll gently swing up. Life deals you need. Maybe I will do better out in this world making apps, coming up with ideas than I would have done treating individual patients because I wasn't making money doing it.
Yeah, so maybe it was a catalyst to get this.
Maybe we don't know those things, do we? But my objective is to help the most people as fast as possible gain the most change and the most health benefit. It's I don't think you could have gone through what I've gone through if you didn't have this quasi-religious belief in what you were doing.
Yeah. Well,
you need that because you see these people. I mean, at the time in history, you see all these crazy individuals, often religious individuals, who stood up for things, but people stood up just for the truth. And you get this really interesting sort of passionate belief in what you're doing, and you almost eschew money. You almost don't worry about the financial burdens or the health implications. You feel you've got to get up in the morning and get going with it again because it's really important task and mission that you're making for the benefit of humanity.
Yeah.
And you then think you're stupid as well. But
sounds like this podcast. Hey, Lee?
well, yeah, but then guys, you're on your own mission, aren't you?
Yeah.
You've got this sense of interest and inquiry that's taking you around the world online around the world.
Yeah, no, I mean it is. It's fun, and we get a lot out of it. I mean, personally, and hopefully our listeners get a lot as much as me and Lee get out of it. But anyway, Mark, sorry, we've jumped so all over the place now. I don't even know.
We have. Shall we just go back to the letter because
what have we left out? What do we need to get? Yeah, just steer us. Sorry,
steer us. Well, let's go back. I had a few things up. I'll send you an image. I said I was going to show an image. I'll just send you that image, and this is just image. We'll just say the difference between an ancestral nasal cavity and a modern nasal cavity. Okay. And when you see that image, you just go, "Wow, we have changed markedly. We are massively different from how we do." But then I'll also go through some of the questions you sent me earlier on, but because I guess we have covered most of that. I think that it was interesting. You asked me a question about what the evidence between jaw development issues like sleep apnea and airway restriction. And this is something that really interests me, and I think it's really an example of the problem we face. Because within orthodontics, we talk about malocclusion. We talk about class 1, class 2, class 3. So class 1 is here, class 2 is here, class 3 is here. Okay? And we've got the x-rays taken in the middle of last century. But all of the people we've taken as our gold standard have 28 teeth. And we've made so many assumptions within that they were normal that it's quite difficult for us to understand that actually our ancestors were a totally different shape. And so where we but you've just got your normal in the wrong place. And so what you've got is a description of a symptom. Crooked teeth is a symptom of a bigger problem. So within orthodontics, you make this analysis of people, but you're analyzing a symptom, and you're analyzing a symptom based on a gold standard that is wrong. It's halfway down the process of having problems. This is a problem that started 10,000 years ago. It ramped up about 1,000 years ago. And in the last 4 generations, it's got drastically wronger. And you've taken these x-rays, 2.5 generations ago. So it really clouds your thinking. Then when you look at sleep apnea, they talk about the AHI, the apnea hypoxia index. Well, that's going out of favor now because they've got other symptoms of other measurements. And I went into the Guy's Hospital, the Guy's and St Thomas's Trust Hospital. We went in the department and we were looking in the department, and one of the guys was showing me how he makes a diagnosis, and it was literally 4 of those, 2 of them, 1 of those, and that's how he makes a diagnosis of sleep apnea. And they talk about you needing a 20 channel, so they're measuring 20 different things, because you've got young kids who will sleep at night like this, and they don't have sleep apnea. And is it because they don't have sleep apnea, or they've found a position in which they can breathe comfortably and it doesn't precipitate the snoring or the ADHD, AHIs, or the other things that would be measurements of sleep apnea? So you've got 2 things, both sleep apnea and both orthodontics, that are really hard to nail down, really hard to define. I'm saying they're both symptoms of something else. And the fact that they've struggled to make clear relationships between these 2 problems, hardly surprising me, because you're not opening your mind to what the bigger picture is. You're looking at it in a very narrow field like this, and within that narrow parameters, you're not seeing issues. You're not a relationship between these 2 things, and I think that's the problem. And I think that the inherent problem is we need to stand back. We've got lots of problems. Why aren't we having an engagement, some form of scientific engagement? As I say, a full, fair, and free engagement on almost any subject within orthodontics. But I would start at the bottom, start with the cause, work up to the pathology, and just see where we go. Let the science do the talking. I don't claim I'm right. I don't claim I have all the answers. But I do claim I'm asking the right questions. And I'm just following the scientific process. And we will see where this goes, because it is going to be an interesting... this is a story that affects everyone on this planet. Massively. And it's a story that, you sit there. I've watched you on the other video. You do a good deal more talking usually.
Well, it's good to listen. It's good to listen every now and then when things.
As I said, I don't know where this is going to go, but I've opened Pandora's box. I opened a whole new sector of healthcare, a whole sector of a new field of wellness. And I don't know where it's going to go. And this is a double-edged sword, this thing with health and aesthetics. Someone who's got a healthy face has also got a face that works well, that looks good. As I say, one of my quote phrases is, your face is the CV of your health.
I know, but that's why women find it attractive, or men find women attractive that have those.
They just display of health.
And
because but I'm saying it's not only what you were genetically programmed to have, and there is genetics in it, but there's also what you've achieved yourself. You have achieved that, and that's that outward display. You've achieved that growth and development. And here it is. And that means I've got a healthy airway. That means I can stand up straight. But, of course, it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? If it wasn't for the attractiveness angle, mewing wouldn't have been the phenomena it was or is. But if it wasn't for the attractiveness angle, I wouldn't have been pillared by so many people within the medical profession. At least it got me to this place. I mean, if it hadn't been for the attractive angle, I wouldn't be here talking to you now.
Yeah, well, it's certainly what I've seen. It's really worked, and
well, it can do, but it is the same thing. You go to Weight Watchers. Weight Watchers has filed for bankruptcy since Monjuro came on the scene.
Wow.
Anyway, you would have gone to Weight Watchers, and they'd have the star person up there. This person who went from, we don't do 150 kilos, 170 kilos down to 50 kilos. And they've got them, images of them, and you look at this change and you go, oh my God, what an achievement. And they still aren't the average. And at the moment where we are in mewing is, if you're over 18, 19, 20, and you get a facial change that's remarkable, you're not the average. You're in the same category as those guys. Now, I want to get to the point that that's more easy to do. I want to be the Monjuro, let's say, into the mewing world, where we can say, okay, how we can get those results of, relatively easily and relatively predictably, and and understand more about it and how to do that more. This is the opening of the science, and we've got to progress this forwards, and that's what I want to do with the app. So I want to bring more things onto the app so that we can have and we've got lots of other ideas of what we're going to do, but this is something that's here to stay. You can't put the genie back in the box. Facial, if you had a stroke tomorrow, your face would change. It's here. Yeah. I'm not giving you any information that you didn't know already.
Yeah, and
chewing gum.
I'm really
chewing gum. So we've got a chewing gum coming out soon.
Oh, okay. A mewing chewing gum.
Yeah. So we're going to just do. So what I want to do is also we want to start with. So I think that we should be intervening. And again, this is my personal opinion, that we should be intervening at about 4 or 5 years old in kids with a burst of expansion, widening the top jaw, and then a lot of chewing and a lot of, lips together, breathe through your nose. That's the age you want to be. In fact, this is the strange thing, because I said I was the third generation. My grandfather was taught he took a sabbatical year to go to the Somme to get shot up in the First World War. So when he was training, and that was his after his first year. He'd done 1 year, went to right at the beginning of the First World War, got shot up, come back, finished up his dentistry. And he was taught that at 4 or 5 years old, if you didn't have space between the upper front teeth for a half crown, and that was a 2 millimeter thick coin, you were going to have problems. And you would needed a burst of expansion. And that was standard teaching. So what I want to do is bring back what was standard teaching almost exactly 100 years ago. Just over 100 years ago.
Oh,
okay.
So tell us what, because my daughter's 6 years old now, turning 7 tomorrow actually, and she's got her two front teeth coming out. I don't know, it seems very young, like for to have two top teeth and the bottom four bottom teeth coming through, like have come through.
It is highly rare for anyone in the modern world not to need some whitening. Now, clearly, I know that's a controversial topic. That is part of what got me into the court case, comments like that, because they think, well, as long as you've got straight, you only need to widen to get the teeth straight. Is that's what we should be doing in orthodontics, just straightening teeth, not trying to do anything else.
So what can she do to help her?
Expansion, burst of expansion. And I can contact you slightly because I know people in South Africa, but you get a burst of expansion. And then so what they would do 100 years ago is you do 3 to 4 months of whitening, 3 to 4 months wearing the appliance all the time, 3 to 4 months of wearing the appliance just at nights, and then they'd stop the appliance. And they would really, but back then, the environment was so much better. Food was tougher. People stood up straighter. It was, you naturally stood straighter. It was, it wasn't something you had to do. Everyone did. You went to school and, stand up straight.
Yeah. So I can't just tape her mouth shut and make it chew gum all day. Wouldn't they work?
Yeah, but that works. I'm lip taping at night. Not that I'm allowed to recommend that. I've not seen the patient in hand, but
I am such like I am like a proof that works. That taping of the mouth. I'm so scared somebody actually sees me at nighttime. They walk into my room and they see me lying there with this mouth taped.
Well, I tape both my kids at night. I kiss them good night, put tape on. In fact, they now go, "Where's the tape, Dad?"
But it really works. I can't believe actually before I go to bed, I actually can't wait to put that tape on because I just feel so great just breathing through my nose like that, and then I don't wake up and have a urination in the middle of the night, and I sleep the whole night through.
Yeah, what we need to do though is be stimulating rather than this is making you do it. No, this is doing it for you. We've got to get systems that make you do it. So to reestablish, and there's all that, they're all up here. Come and give me a couple £1 million and I can make a fortune. It's all ready to go. I've been thinking about these ideas for a long period of time, and I think I have a feeling that I will probably do better now just in the commercial world than I would have just as a dentist.
Okay, well, I can't wait to see where this space goes, Mark.
Yeah, but let's see. It's great chatting to you guys. It's just helping to get the word out there because you will attract and be in contact with a different genre of people than I would have normally engaged with. So this just helps to get the information out there. And just, as I said, what I want is a debate, full, free and fair debate on why. That's what we're supposed to be asking in medicine, isn't it?
And that's how science should be.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I really admire you, Mark, for what you've done and what you've going through. And but
I am pretty stupid though to have done this. I could have just gone into Harley Street in the centre of London, taken teeth out, straightened them up, smiled, and made a fortune.
No, but there's certain people
we need guys like you to get us in the right direction.
Yeah.
Sorry, Lee.
No, so there's certain people in the world that things happen to, and it's sometimes shit things. But it's from those things that you learn and it becomes a standard later on. So unfortunately, you're one of those.
Yeah, that's the thing. You have to have the guys, the crucifixion.
Yeah, I've been martyred.
Yeah, exactly. So luckily you just get taken off Twitter now.
No, Twitter's the only one you stay.
Oh yeah, they changed that. You just get your license taken away.
Yeah.
That's almost like getting killed because how are you going to feed yourself? But
yeah, it's tough. It's tough when this goes. I mean, tough when I was successful in my business. I built a good business up. I stacked some savings up. Yeah. Then I sold my house to invest in the clinic and get the clinic going. And then I was developing another house, and I had to sell that to pay for the court fees. So that just you can't that wipes you out completely.
Oh, geez, I'm actually surprised you standing here talking like with a smile on your face.
Well, because I've got
So
this quasi-religious attitude to I want the bloody truth, mate. And I know I'm
yeah,
right. I know
yeah,
I win because I have a habit of winning. I was discussing before with that tend to land on my feet most times.
yeah. Well, if it was, if,
And but
you
you
know, the
have
best
to have
way,
this belief in yourself, William. You have
yeah,
to have this absolute belief that you are right because you can have some dark days when you really struggle to believe you're right and you're doing the right thing.
yeah.
And that just and at times it is this slither of a belief that yes, I'm pretty sure I'm right. I hope I've done the right thing.
Yeah, sure. No. Yeah, well,
Anyway,
Mike,
guys, we need to wrap up because I've got a meeting
oh, yeah,
in
sorry, we
about an
also got to
hour I
go,
should
but
prepare for.
Yeah.
thank you, Mike, so much for coming on, and we admire you. And yes, we're just gonna, yeah, we'll stay in touch and see how where it goes. I'm sure it's going to be amazing. And
Yeah, well, contact me for a contact for your daughter, is it?
yes, yeah,
Yeah,
daughter, yeah. Okay, cool.
because we can put you in contact with some people.
Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic. Well, thank you
All
for that,
right,
Mike. All
Thanks,
right, all the
Mike.
guys,
best,
Appreciate
mate.
it.
pleasure.
Hang in there.
That's all right.
Back at chatting.
Listen, thank you
Okay,
very much for the opportunity, guys.
yeah,
No,
Take
thank
thank
care.
you.
you.
Thanks, Mike.
Cheers,
Cheers,
Mike.
man.
Yeah, it's interesting. Nice chat about that kind of stuff. And
Yeah, that's
yeah, he's
cool,
right.
man.
Hey, I mean, he's right. So many people, yes, like dentists are busy, man. Skew teeth and all fucking fillings all the
Yeah.
time. And it's not just because of the shit that you're eating, but because you're breathing wrong.
But you know what's so funny is like when my wisdom teeth came through, I actually had enough space in my mouth for the wisdom teeth, but I just thought it was a thing that you just have to go and take them out. It was just like a normal thing. Like to me, when wisdom teeth came through, you have to take them out. It was like a bad thing, and I never questioned like, well, what about the people in the past? Like, what did they do with their wisdom teeth? Why do we have wisdom teeth? Why are they coming through? And I didn't. I just went to the dentist and said, my wisdom teeth have come through. Can you just
Mm.
take them out? And then he didn't even question me. He wasn't like,
Hey, they're
I
straight,
mean,
leave
like,
it.
yeah, he wasn't like, oh, it's fine. He just fucking took them out. Like
Yeah,
while I
it's
was
making money.
awake, even he fucking just injected me like fucking
Yeah,
stood on my chest almost and like yanked them out like while I was awake. I
yeah.
mean,
Yeah, I
and
think most people, because I mean, mine were coming through, but they came through skew. One was like great going into my teeth, the other one was going up the jaw. So it was like so
yeah,
it
and I'm
happened.
actually like, yeah.
Mm.
Anyway, yeah, you should have changed the ball biltong when you were younger, apparently, Lee.
No, I actually didn't have much biltong when I was younger, at all. I didn't even chew a lot of chewing gum either when I was younger.
Yeah.
Because my grandparents were always like, if you're chewing gum, fuck, dude.
Yeah,
It's
like,
like it's like a no-no, eh?
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you for everybody for listening again for this week. That was a very interesting topic. I hope you guys learned something from it. And we will check you next week. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Will.
Cheers, guys. Thanks, Lee.
Cheers.
Thanks, Mike.